Hey all, welcome to this episode of A Good Problem to Have. I'm your host, Tyler Olson. Today we're going to be talking about cash flow communication methods. Whether you are single or you are part of a couple, this will be relevant to you because getting the relevant data on your cash flow into your mind, in front of your eyes, and resulting in action and decisions, it can be challenging at times. There's a lot of factors, and so sometimes the dynamics lead to, well, we don't really need to talk about cash flow, or I don't need to know what my month to month or week to week cash flow is because I'm in a really high paying specialty and I can spend whatever I want. That may be true in your case. There might be, you may be in the situation though where you're making $250,000 a year, and that certainly is a very healthy income, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you can just buy whatever you want whenever you want, and that a lack of monitoring and discipline may result in harm. So, um, the needs for this are going to vary, but good discipline and appreciating intentional spending is really important, not just for wealth creation, but for calm and peace of mind. And I have a couple ideas that I wanted to share with you all today. And this is some of them are electronic or tech oriented, and some are not. Let's take an example. I could even use myself as that example, and that is like as a parent, and my wife and I we both take a lot of time to with our work, and then being with our kid, being with each other, and other life responsibilities. Time that we have, and I'm sure this is relevant to other couples, to talk about money is limited. And we do have to carve out specific times where we're going to talk about plans for the future. That's those sort of conversations, those are things that we really look forward to because we're talking about projects, we're talking about goals that we have. And when we talk about them together, then we can start piecing together what things we have to do to make that possible. What's been more challenging for us in the past, and I think is a really common issue, is being able to communicate the week to week cash flow, month to month. And the reason why is because it's hard to be able to communicate effectively and in a consistent way. Hey, this is what we're spending right now, or this is how much we spent last week, or this is how much we have available for whatever we want to purchase. Those sort of questions and answers, if they require conversation, it's going to be really hard to consistently get there because we just don't have the time, right? So there's some people who really benefit from using applications. First thing that comes to mind is YNAB, an acronym, You Need a Budget. Another similar one is Monarch Money. We use that with our clients too, so I'm very familiar with Monarch. And it's a way for you to effectively link your bank account and your credit cards so that it can pull in all your transactions. You have to categorize in order to organize spending types into various areas, right? So that you can, if you want to know what you're spending and where, you have to teach the software. Now it tries to guess based on the merchant name. A lot of times it can make a pretty good guess on some things, but a lot of things it gets wrong. And so you have to educate it. And then it learns, and then more so like, oh, this is how much we spend on groceries, and this is how much we spend on fuel and on hotels and things like that. There are some things that are more challenging, like the internal purchases of Amazon, right? Because those could be anything, right? And tech is improving where you can monitor more closely like what the internal purchases are and how they can be applied in those spending categories. As if that's something that works for you, and you're married and your spouse can use the same app so that you can both be looking at the same information at the same time, those can be helpful because you can log in, you can check and see, okay, this is how much we've spent so far in this category. And so that will inform if I'm going to make this successive purchase now or if I'm going to wait. That's helpful for some. I'll tell you right now, that is not helpful for us. And the reason I think is that I just personally, I don't process information as well when I'm looking at a screen. Like when I really when I want to understand something, if at all possible, it's got to be in print. That really helps me to slow down, helps me to like make sure that I'm not going too fast to be able to process things. Of course, that's just me, so that may not be you, but if you're a person that does not benefit from using an application, something that's written or tangible is can be helpful. Some people, you may have heard of like putting cash in envelopes and then using the cash and knowing like, okay, this is how much we have left for this month for groceries or whatever it is. And if that works for you, that's a great option. It's very tangible. It's tactile, right? And you can see it with your eyes. I found that to be challenging for a couple of reasons, though. One is because when we have to use cash, that's an additional errand that we're running. I really don't go to the bank that often, if at all possible. I try to avoid it, but you do have to include that in your routine where you're going to get cash to be able to put into the envelopes. And then, of course, you're also spending the cash when you go and you pay for things. That can also be challenging if you're making any sort of online purchases, where you'd have to then take the cash, and even though you're using a card to pay for a purchase, you have to account for it by removing the cash from the envelope so that you're keeping up with what your spending actually is as it relates to the visual demonstration of